Oh, finally getting a breather. Oh, dropped my lucky bullet. The one I didn't have to use today, thankfully. Oh man, this reminds me of the old days when I used to make YouTube videos before the collapse. But boy, everything's changed now. I don't go anywhere without my Glock on me, at least. Usually I've got either my 590 or my an AR, or sometimes I take my 1022. I've got a little bit of an assortment stashed out around here just for in case it gets even worse, man. But I don't know how it really could. You know, I guess it's, is it July already? 2025? My God, man. It's just gone by so fast since the collapse. Of course, you guys probably all remember all that stuff where they tried to steal another election, and it was so blatant and in your face that people just couldn't accept it, and pretty much all of society just started breaking down piece by piece, brick by brick, all the way down to the foundations. No power, you know, the cops went home. So without rule of law, that's been a big deal. And then we held our homestead place over there as long as we could, but eventually we had to bug out. I don't like bugging out. That's a last ditch effort. I did not want to do it, but you know, we couldn't hold the ground over there anymore. We were under constant attack. It was too close to the city. Out here so far, I haven't seen a lot of people. There's, you know, by the time the hordes get to the suburbs, usually they're thinned out quite a bit because, you know, for one, most of these people are starving. I mean, it's been, for many people, it's been weeks or months without a real proper meal. I mean, so anyway, yeah, you guys all remember the big collapse when that happened, and you know, the banks, there was the run on the banks, and you know, your credit cards didn't work, your cell phone just stopped working, everything that we all relied on just ceased to exist. And then people were fighting over resources. It's that same old story, you know. Gasoline was one of the hot ticket items for quite a while there. You know, of course, I was lucky, and really it's not luck, because, you know, I always knew something like this was coming, so I kept my Suburban and my black Chevy, always tried to keep it full or 3/4 of a tank. And I think when shit went sideways, I had at least 3/4 of a tank, maybe a little bit more in that Suburban, which is like a 40-gallon tank. So that's the only reason that we were able to run our generator over here for as long as we did, and we were able to pump water. But yeah, right now, this is my new humble abode. You know, I guess we'll have a cribs version of a shipping container that's not finished and not really set up or suitable for living in, but I've got a cot back here. I've got a desk here, a little bit of light. The light that you do see, it's because I have a solar, a really, really basic solar kit that, I believe it or not, I bought it from Harbor Freight. So I bought it from the Chinese, and of course I've heard some rumors that there have been a lot of Chinese that have come up through Texas since the collapse, and even before the collapse, there were supposedly armed people coming up. I mean, shit was going off the rails since Biden, really, honestly, it was before then, since the COVID was introduced. And the more I see the Chinese doing these things, it just, all the pieces fit together. They did all of that stuff intentionally to get to this outcome, to break the backbones of the American people, to break our spirits. But I got to tell you, my spirit's still alive and well. I'm surviving out here. I'm eating fish from the pond. Occasionally I get squirrel. I've got a couple of wild rabbits, although the ones I got, they weren't very tasty, but it filled your belly and everything, and it was nutritious, and they weren't wormy, so that was good. I've been eating all kinds of stuff that I wouldn't have normally thought to eat. Now, luckily, I've got a lot of wild edibles here on my property, and I may lose my power here in just a second because I've got a solar panel and a marine battery over here, but it's pretty low. I'm afraid to leave that solar panel out because if someone spots that, you know, they would kill you over a solar panel these days. That's how bad stuff is. Everybody is just either starving or, you know, a lot of people that were into prepping, they're doing a lot better, obviously, but so many people weren't. I mean, the preppers out there that I've met along the way are probably like, you know, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3% of the people I've come across. Most of the others, the vast majority are, man, they're just in a sad state. People are just dying from starvation. You know, it's wild. And those that don't get, you know, struck by starvation or something like that, they're getting all these other diseases that, you know, we thought we'd eradicated these diseases, and to a large degree we had in modern society, but now with no power, with no medicine, with no, you know, nothing, people are just dropping dead like flies, man. So there's, you know, there's lots of death around. You almost, at least for me, anytime I leave my property, it's guaranteed I'm going to see some dead bodies. And it's so bad that a lot of people are just throwing them out in the ditches and stuff like that, or wherever they fall, that's where the body lies. And of course that brings in a lot of diseases and flies and maggots. And so, you know, it's just this cascading effect of collapse. And just when I think things can't get any worse, they do. But anyway, we're doing okay. My wife and I are out here. The plan was that my daughter and her boyfriend and one of my best friends and a couple other people were going to show up out here as well. But so far it's just me and my wife. And unfortunately, there's not very many times we get to stay under the same roof. Right now, I'm on one side of the property and she's on the other side of the property. And I'm not even going to sleep tonight. I know that. I'm just out here doing a patrol, and I thought, hey, I'd make a video in case maybe my daughter comes along. Maybe I don't make it through this, and one day she gets these videos, or somebody else, and maybe that'll help you out. But I was going to say about the people that are dropping dead from diseases and stuff, it's not just that. Water is so hard to get. Clean water is so hard to get that if you do come here, don't try to drink that water straight out of the pond. You'll get giardia or whatever it is, and you'll be painting the walls with your shit, and it won't be pleasant. You'll be throwing up, you know, out. It'll be coming out both ends, and it'll be quite disgusting, and it could kill you, especially when you don't have good, clean, fresh water to put on top of it. So what I've been doing is I made up a very basic filter. I had some coffee filters, and I had some what is that stuff called? Activated charcoal. My wife had some of that in our prepping kit, so I'm using it real sparingly, but I'm also making my own charcoal and, you know, making like biochar type stuff. And I'm making basically a layered filter with, it starts off with grass, just clean grass that's high up off the ground that I can get and cut clean, and, you know, fold that in there, then put a coffee filter, and then a layer of that, the charcoal that I'm making myself, and then also a thin layer of the special charcoal, the activated charcoal as they call it. And it's getting it very clean, but I still have to boil it after that. So it's a huge effort just to have clean water that's clean enough to where you're not gonna, you know, shit your guts out if you drink it. So that's a big deal. And, you know, being that we're trying to have light discipline and all this stuff, I've got the container door mostly closed here, so there's just a little sliver of light, and I'm facing away from any main roads or anything. I'm facing back towards my woods, so nobody should be able to see me, and I'm keeping my voice quiet as well. So we're practicing light and sound discipline as much as possible, but also something you have to think about is fire discipline. What are you gonna do? You know, you can't just go out there and have a big bonfire, man. You got to keep it under control. You got to keep it small. And so I've got a little rocket stove that I use up here when I'm up near the shipping container, which is closer to the road. It's not right by the road, but it's closer. It's close enough that I'm worried if somebody goes down, they might smell it and be able to sniff me out, because it's amazing. That's one thing that's at least for me, my senses have all been extremely heightened since SHTF collapsed and since I came out here, and since, I've been under threat constantly from, we had cannibals come through the neighborhood. We had, several attacks and neighbors turning on neighbors, people trying to steal each other's shit. It was just, my wife and I decided we'd be better off out here on our own. So it's important to know who the people are in your group. And, see, the trouble is, though, is that even if you really know that person, I mean, your best friend, this didn't happen to me, but your best friend, if they're hungry enough and they think you have something, I mean, when it comes down to it and you're in that state of starvation, I'm sure I'm sure you've reached it at this point. I mean, who hasn't? We're all starving most of the time. Even when I catch fish and stuff, it just never feels, it's not the same. I mean, it's just eating for sustenance, just to stay alive, to be able to hunt and eat and fish another day. That's all it is. And that's what we try to do, is we try to keep, putting one foot in front of the other and keep moving. That's our motto. We just keep moving. And no matter, one of my favorite quotes ever from Winston Churchill reminds me of that. I was just thinking in my mind, a little sidetrack here. I wonder if many people even remember old Winston Churchill these days, But anyway, old Winston Churchill, he said that one time, during World War II, he says, when you're going through hell, keep going. Never give up, never give in, no matter what. And that's the way my wife and I are geared. So we've been trying to do all these things. We take turns taking different shifts. We do get to spend a little bit of time together every day, pretty much, talking on radios and stuff like that. But even then, if we even get a blip of anyone else's radio chatter, we have to go totally radio silent, because we don't want someone to be able to triangulate our positions. And one really smart thing I did before SHTF happened was I got these radios on MURS frequency, M-U-R-S, and that frequency is not very popular, and it works really great in my woods, and it has a pretty good range. I mean, I'm going to say it's about maybe a mile, I don't know, something like that. And it kind of depends what's in your, it's with all radios, if there's a bunch of stuff in your way and a bunch of hills and things, it can get a little spotty. But my wife and I can communicate all over my entire 100 acres here. And we really haven't had very many problems out here with people, except, big groups of people, like, the mobs that we were having problems with over in the suburbs. But what we do have problems with is everyone out here is very closed off. They're very isolated. Everyone's scared to talk to each other, and I don't blame them. I'm scared to talk to people too, because you never know. We've all heard these rumors and, reports from people we trust and we've seen a lot of this stuff ourselves. We've seen the dead bodies. We've seen the packs of cannibals coming through trying to kill everybody and eat them, and, kidnapping people and rape and murder and just senseless, just evil. Sometimes I'm reminded of that passage in the Bible in Revelations where it talks about it will be like in the times of Noah again, before the coming of Christ. And it feels like that. It feels like we're in those end times. But yeah, it just went off the rails. Oh man, I just lost part of my lights, guys. Sorry about that. We're just going to have to continue on with this. I've got a little portable battery-powered flashlight here, but I just ran my my battery down below comfortable level or whatever, and it sets off that alarm. I can't have that noise going off, because again, someone could triangulate me. Everything you do, you have to really think about it. I was going to tell you, when I'm making when I'm boiling up my water, okay, because even after I filter it, I have to boil it to be safe and make sure I kill all the germs, bacteria and stuff in there. And anyway, when I do that, I have to be really careful not to have too big a fire. So what I've been doing is I'll either dig a little hole right down by the pond, because it's easy to get it right out of the pond and put it right on this little fire hole that I've made. And if that's too smoky or if that's not working out, I've also tried the Dakota fire hole. That's really cool, and it's almost smokeless, especially once it gets established. It kind of acts like a rocket stove, so that's really cool. And the nice thing about those things, when you've got a hole in the ground, you've got the dirt around it still, you can just kick it right over the top if you suddenly hear some noises or gunshots or your voices come in your direction, right? So one other thing I really want to warn you about around here, most people, again, they tend to keep to themselves because, they know you can get shot. And, when I've gone out trying to meet a few people, I've had a couple of warning shots fired at me, and immediately the way to respond to that is hands up like this. I'm no threat. I come in peace. And if they say, get out of here, you get the fuck out of there. Okay. You don't wait around. And that's what I do. But most of the time, when you show that you're not a threat, and you don't, even though I wear camo pants and stuff, I don't show up with my AR-15 all ready to go, or my shotgun or whatever, right? I mean, I'm going onto someone else's property, so I want to appear as not a threat, especially if I'm trying to trade with them or something. So, and that's what I try to do. And I've made a few allies around here that it's I wouldn't trust them 100%. I wouldn't say that it's like that, but it's good enough that we can do some trading and bartering, and I don't think they're going to rip me off. So that's worked out pretty well so far. I'm fortunate that I have a lot of wild edibles here. I've got the, what do they call it? Sand plum, I think they're called. My wife knows the names of all these things. I've got some apricots. I've got mulberries. We've been picking a lot of mulberries, and right now the blackberries are going like crazy, so we eat a lot of those. The only problem is when you eat, when all you eat is blackberries, you're gonna have probably some digestive problems just as a result of that. So if you eat too much of that stuff, anything like that, if you eat too much of any one thing, it's probably going to mess up your system. So it's best if you can, catch a few fish and maybe mix it in there and you'd be amazed at what some smashed up blackberries will do just to change the flavor profile of something that you're kind of bored eating, right? And it helps, anything like that you can do helps out. We've got the prickly pear cactuses all over. We've also got some cattails. So cattails are a really valuable resource here. And different times of the year, you can eat different parts of them. But I believe 100% of the cattail is edible, although I doubt you'd want to eat that cottony hot dog part, right? The part that actually looks like a hot dog. And man, I can't tell you how many times I've walked by those things and gone, man, I wish I had a freaking hot dog right now, a big chili dog or something. Oh God, that'd be awesome. But I mean, geez, yeah, I'd like a filet mignon or a T-bone also, but it's the little things like that. When you're walking through the woods and you suddenly see a pile of cattails. I mean, it's like that cartoon image where everything you look at starts to look like, walking meat because you're that freaking hungry. That's tough. And right now, like I said, it's July 2025. So, I mean, it's hot. So you're sweating a lot, you're using a lot of salt. And while we did stock up on salt and we brought a lot of our supplies over here with us, we didn't get nearly enough. We've got enough to flavor our food and to keep some salt in our body, but we don't have enough to preserve any meat or anything like that. I wish I had some, I wish I had like a 55-gallon drum worth of salt, because salt is worth its weight in gold in survival times like this. So, we do a lot of bushcraft projects and a lot of things like that to try to make things better. While we don't set any booby traps, because, we're trying to be, we're trying to remain moral people and not, we don't want to hurt anybody or any animals, anything like that, unnecessarily, unless they're a threat to us. But anyway, we do have some, you know, like some tin cans with rocks in them and some string and some, you know, whatever, 440, 540 cord, whatever that shit's called, that military cord. We've strung that out in some key places to where if someone's coming along at night, they'll hit that, or if an animal or something. And, you know, man, we've eaten some stuff that I thought I'd never eat. If you have to, skunk ain't bad. It's better than greasy possum. Possum's probably my least favorite. Squirrel is probably my favorite, or rabbit, if you get a young rabbit. But if you get an old rabbit, it's probably gonna not be all that good, and it's gonna be really tough. Of course, there's fish. I fish almost every day, so I love that. I love fishing, and I've got my gear over here, so that's great. That's been providing us a lot of food, and that's an excellent source of just repetitive. You know, I can go down there, I can catch fish, but I do worry what's going to happen when winter comes on. So, yeah, I mean, we're about 6 months in, 6.5 months in, because, yeah, you guys remember the election. It was stolen, and it was obvious this time. It was a clear-cut case of election theft. They caught them red-handed because they knew where to look. You know, it was all tied in with the mail-in stuff, and it was just, you know, trying to get the illegals to vote and all this, and registering them to vote. They did all sorts of stuff. All the dead people were voting. They never wanted to clean up the voter rolls because it would get rid of all those dead people and all those illegitimate Democrat voters. So they finally caught them red-handed. I mean, it was so undeniable that even Democrats were saying, hey, look, this was stolen. And especially, you know, you guys all remember that first debate back in 2024 when Biden just fell on his face. Well, and the second one wasn't any better. He just, you know, maybe they pumped him up with a little bit more, you know, whatever that stuff is. Not ephedrine. What's that stuff called? Anyway, some upper, you know, they gave him some upper or whatever, and made him perform a little better in that second debate. But it's still, you could tell the guy has dementia. And so there was nobody that believed before the election. There was nobody believed that, even the Democrats didn't believe he had a chance in hell. And then they tried to tell us that he got even more votes than he got in 2020. It was unbelievable. They said 92 million or something like that. And we were just like, yeah, yeah, same freaking thing. Where, you know, when we went to bed that night, you know, I stay up pretty late. So I went to bed at like 2 a.m., I think, that night, because I was excited about the election and everything. I was like everybody else. I thought for sure everyone has seen how senile and how, you know, demented Biden is. What I know is that life will never be the same here again. We're much more like the frontiersmen or the pioneers of the, you know, the early days of America, the 1700s, 1800s, pre-electricity in most cases. But, you know, try to see the bright spot in everything, and I can tell you right now, when I go outside and I see no airplanes flying over, I see no contrails, the air already feels cleaner and better. I look up at night, I can see the night sky like I haven't seen it in decades. I can see, on some nights I can see aurora, what is it, not aurora borealis, the Milky Way. I can see the freaking Milky Way. I've forgotten what it was because it's been so long. It's been since I was a kid since I've seen that. So as bad as everything is, I try to look at that sort of stuff, and I get to spend pretty much 100% of my life out in nature now, and I love nature. So that's a win-win. I mean, you know, I'd have never told you 6 months, a year ago, that we would eat copperhead snake for dinner. 2 nights ago, we caught a bunch of copperheads. They're easy to find. Now, you don't want to get bit by one, but, you know, if you've got a shovel or something, that's all you need to take them out. Even a big stick would probably do it. But it depends how hungry you are, right? I mean, but, you know, honestly, it was hard to eat the meat, but the meat was good. It was really good. So we're going to be looking for that. We've figured out a formula to go out and find them. For some reason, they like hiding underneath barn tin. So if you just leave some barn tin laying out on the ground, watch out, you flip it over, there might be some copperheads under there. And they're really well camouflaged, so you have to really watch out for them. And you definitely don't want to get bit by one in a survival scenario, but that just tells you how desperate we have been to get some good meat and some good protein in our bodies. You know, we do still have our food supplies here, but we're trying to ration it out, and we've got it spread out all over the property because I don't want someone to come in and be able to clean me out when I'm out in the back 40 or something like that. So every single thing you do, you have to think about it. Like it could be leading to the last moment of your life if you walk into a trap, or you walk into a booby trap. Literally, some of the other people out here, the more wild and crazy redneck types, they're setting booby traps and shit all over their property, and even on other people's properties. So that's one thing that's been a little bit of an issue. Not too bad, but property lines don't mean the same thing that they used to mean before when we had law and order. It's basically whatever you can control by force. So you may have to go and show force if you get people trying to encroach in on you, and they will try to. We've had that happen several times. Even some of the neighbors tried to push in. I caught one of the neighbors out there trying to cut some fence one day, and I'm like, no, that's my fucking fence. And I didn't point it at him, but I had my Mossberg 590 like this in my hand, slung over my shoulder, and I was like, he knew I meant business. I was like, nah, man, this is my fucking land. You don't cut any wire on my land ever again, or we're going to have some problems. So anyway, I'm not trying to be Billy Badass or something like that. It's just that, hey, that's mine. I paid for that. I paid taxes on it. I'm going to patrol it, and that's on my patrol route every day. I walk around now. I beat a fucking path around there, and the guy has seen me over there walking by. So anyway, I check on that all the time because, that's a sign that things aren't cool. These people are going to try to take what they can get away with, and that's pretty much the motto around here with a lot of people. So you have to be careful, but I've run all my batteries out, so I probably better shut down, and tomorrow maybe I can get everything charged up. I don't like to leave the solar out because I'm afraid someone will steal it, but I think tomorrow I'm going to hang around up here and get some work done around here. But just everything is 10 times harder. Getting water, getting food. Definitely can't store any food because we don't have any generators. I don't have enough solar to run a fridge or anything like that. It's just, I miss ice. I miss air conditioning. I miss jumping in my Chevy and just driving down the road and not getting shot at. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I miss all that shit. And even that, I got to keep it down. I can't even crack myself up anymore because if you get a little bit too comfortable, that's when someone steps around the corner, ends you just like that. So keep your head on a swivel. Good luck to you. I hope you're doing a lot better than we are out there. I hope you were already set up a lot better than we were. It's not the Taj Mahal, but I've got a dry place to be here, and it's relatively bug and rat free and stuff like that. So we're blessed, and we're happy to be amongst the living, because so many of us aren't anymore, man. I mean, I think about it. When I used to make YouTube videos, all the people I used to get to talk to on there and stuff, and oh man, to go back to an easy time like that, we took it all for granted. Be safe, be strong. God bless you.